Good morning and welcome to a frosty morning in Bradgate Park. Just a little wander of my little park onto my own backyard really, so quite lucky to have this. I got a shout out the other day by Greene. Check his channel out, a great channel, loads of advice, and he's asked me to give my 5 tips for what it's worth for those starting wild camping. So I hope you join me on the walk, and along the way I'll give you my 5 tips. Alright then, hope you enjoy the walk, see you in a bit. For those wondering, Bradgate Park is one of the biggest actual parks of the National Trust in East Midlands. And you can see over there, we'll show you some pictures in a bit, you have deer just roaming around freely. Really is a magical little spot, which I know I'm very lucky to have near where I live, and it's full of people just wandering around enjoying being in the outdoors. Oh yeah, now let's get on with then. Tips on wild camping. Also I'm going to include stroke hiking, because my passion is long distance walking, which includes a lot of wild camping. So the first tip I would think about is what you're doing now is seeking advice, and the main places we find that now, not in libraries as such, is via social media, Facebook and YouTube. YouTube and Facebook are good media streams to use, but be aware. I have noticed on some of the groups I was in and have left, and there's millions of, well not millions, there's a lot of them, wild camping, hiking, there's loads, just search Facebook, you'll find them. There's a lot of snobbery, if you haven't got this kit, that kit, this kit, and I go on to about kit later, but I've left a lot of groups, and I'm in groups that I like, and I feel comfortable in to seek advice. And also with YouTube, again, a lot of good advice on YouTube, and there's loads and loads of videos that you can watch of people wild camping in some great locations. But what I have noticed, like with everything with social media, a lot of the people on YouTube now, what I'll call brand influencers. So they'll show you this kit, this bit of kit, you've got to have this, you can't wild camp unless you've got this, and it costs hundreds of pounds, because they're being asked by the company to review that kit, they're given that kit and they use that kit. So a lot of them are brand influencers. I'm not going to name channels. Again, it's each to his own, and I think you've got to make your own mind up of what you're comfortable with, who you're comfortable with. But just be aware when you are researching. But there's loads and loads of good people out there, and loads of good channels on YouTube, and there's loads of good Facebook pages. It's up to you to find the ones you're comfortable with and where you're getting the best advice. Right then, I guess it's time to give you my second snippet about wild camping. Okay then. Where do you intend to wild camp? Is it high up in the mountains? Is it in the summer? Is it going to be in the winter? Maybe if you're just starting out, you're just looking to do something nice and easy, not too high up in the summer. So that'll start, guiding towards what kit you need. Because you don't need to break the bank to go wild camping. It's a hobby. It's something you should enjoy. So you shouldn't have to spend thousands of pounds just to enjoy nature. These 3 tents are what I use. I've got a trekking tent which I use on my long distance walks, but I won't take that up in the high hills in the winter. I then got another tent that I use for just day-to-day adventures, and then I've got a 4-season tent which I use out in weather like today. All of these bought pretty cheaply through Amazon. And spoiler alert, I said before about people being brand influencers. I've not even told you the brands because I just bought them off Amazon. But there are things you need to look at if you're going from depending on what range. Obviously, the cheaper the tent you get, it might not be as waterproof, it might not be as strong in the winds. So again, do your research. I'm not going to tell you what to get, but you don't have to spend thousands of pounds on a tent to enjoy nature. And likewise, you don't have to spend hundreds of pounds on a good quality rucksack to carry your kit. And then also you need a sleeping bag and something to sleep on, be it a mat, be it an inflatable mat. Again, do your research. There's dear ones, there's not so dear ones, there's cheap ones. Again, it all depends what you want to do. I'm not going to go into about the R ratings of sleeping bags and this. Again, that's part of your research, but things you need to think about. So now you've got somewhere to sleep in while you're in the bivvy bag, tent or hammock, and you've got something to carry it in. And again, on top of that, you need some suitable clothing. Not clothing as such for like summer's day, but you need to have something decent on your feet so you don't twist an ankle or something. But just remember, with wild camping, it's meant to be an enjoyable experience. It's you who's carrying the equipment. Just remember that. It's you who's carrying the equipment. So whatever you decide to get, make sure you're comfortable being able to carry it. But you don't need everything that you think you may need to get back and enjoy nature, because that's what wild camping's about. It's about getting out and enjoying nature and a better reconnection time. So you don't need all the mod cons. So the three big things that you suppose you need to think about is what you're going to sleep in, be it a tent, a hammock or a bivvy bag. And most people will use a tent. You need something to carry it in, and then you need some suitable clothing. But the most important part of clothing, I'd say, is footwear. Right then, like I said before, you can, when you go onto social media, and Facebook pages, unfortunately you see some people get hammered for asking a simple question like, I'm thinking of going wild camping, what sort of tent should I use? And brrr, they get hit with all sorts. You need this, you need this, you need this. Now tents can go from, you know, real cheap up to £1,000 plus. You don't need to spend hundreds of pounds for this hobby. It's a hobby. You're meant to be reconnecting with nature. But when you're thinking of your tent, you need to think about what I'm going to talk about in the third tip. Okay, so you'll need a tent or something to sleep in or on. You'll need a sleeping bag of some sort. And preferably something to put the sleeping bag on. It can be something like a roll mat, or it can be what most people use now as an inflatable mat. Again, all about research. And with sleeping bags and air beds, there's a thing called R rating. Now I'm not going to talk about the R rating. Again, it's part of research. Again, it's not difficult. The higher the rating, the warmer the thing is, basically. But most people who are just starting out will be going, most probably, hopefully not in snowy conditions like this, but when the weather warms up and we're allowed back out again, once Bozza says you're good to go. All right then, so we've got a tent, or we've got something to sleep in or on. Within our sleeping. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to be using a tent, and it's just getting very slippy, so I'm going to stop walking and talking and talk. And now you've got a sleeping bag, you've got something for your sleeping bag to go on, and then you need something to carry all that equipment to wherever you're going to wild camp. They're the main three things. And then obviously we talked briefly before about suitable clothing, and most importantly some decent footwear. Again, depending where you're wild camping, and footwear is a personal thing. Again, you can go from pretty cheap but will get you the job done up to hundreds of pounds. Again, it all depends how often you're going to go wild camping. We're going to go wild camping. It's a hobby. If you're starting off, like with any hobby, I wouldn't spend hundreds of pounds in case you don't like it. Alright then, so that's the kit you need. And then you just need to start thinking about along with the kit, what are you going to take with you? I always, when I go wild camping, I take something decent to eat. And this can come in various guises. You can buy pre-packed either hydrated or rehydrated meals, which is just basically you can cook with hot water. So you need something to cook in, maybe a gas stove of some sort, a pot, or like I like to do, I like to take up some steak and fry stuff up. Again though, if you look at YouTube, there's tons of videos of people just going out to the woods cooking, so you can get plenty of ideas of what you need for cooking, and to make the whole experience just a bit more enjoyable. Now, at every stage of a good walk, where it's time to sit down, have a cup of coffee and enjoy a sandwich in these lovely woods out of the wind. The next thing I'm briefly going to talk about is abilities, and that's twofold. One, know your abilities, and that is encompassed with your experience. And two, as I've talked about what kit you can buy, or what's suitable for you, an important thing is know your kit's abilities, and I'll talk about that a bit more. And knowing your abilities is very important, because the whole experience you want to make enjoyable, and you don't want to get caught short, and sadly too many people do. So let's talk about your own ability. What's your fitness like? How old are you? Now, age doesn't really come into it. I've seen so many guys and ladies a lot older than me up in the mountains having a thoroughly enjoyable time. So I won't say age comes into it, but what's your personal fitness like? Because remember what we talked about, whatever you decide to buy equipment wise, you're the one who's carrying it. So what's your ability like? And once you've decided what your ability is like to start off with, that starts to help, which we'll talk about right at the end about planning, is where you decide to go. What's your map reading like? Can you map read? Or are you going somewhere that's well signposted? But really, to go into the hills, people should be able to at least have a basic understanding of map reading, how to use a compass, because the weather isn't always sunny like this. In the mountains it can change quickly. So what's your abilities like with that? And again, don't let any of this put you off. Map reading, super easy to learn, super easy. And again, like with anything, it gets better with experience. And also, what's the capabilities of equipment you have decided to purchase? If it's on the lower end of the scale, like one of my tents is, I won't take that up on top of Helvell in the Lake District in the winter, because I don't think it'd survive it. So it's knowing your kit's abilities as well, because again, you want to make the whole experience enjoyable and safe. So it's having an understanding of what your ability is as an individual, and also your equipment's ability, and that will help guide you to where you're going to go wild camping, what the weather's going to be like, and again, get used to looking at weather forecasts, mountain forecasts. Again, like with everything, there's apps for everything. Again, so know your kit's abilities is quite very important. Again, because you don't want to be on top of a mountain and your tent gives way, and then you've got a situation where you've got to get off the mountain quickly, you're absolutely soaked, and it's just not an enjoyable experience, and could be unsafe. So know your abilities as an individual and your kit's ability. Pretty important to think about. Now then, we've got our kit, we've got our food, we've got something to carry our kit, we've got something for our feet. So the next thing, where are we going to go? Location, location, location. Now this is where YouTube is fantastic. I have to admit, virtually every place, and there are some great channels out there, great channels who I watch, and I copy them. Literally copy where they go. And there's a few out there. Paul Messner, he's got a brilliant channel, and if you're starting to get into wild camping, I suggest you do check him out. I also watch a guy called Andy Beavers as well. He's got a great channel and goes some to great spots again. So I've got a select few who I literally copy where they go. So YouTube is fantastic for locations. Where you go wild camping all depends where you live. What I'm not going to start talking about is the legalities of wild camping, but in most national parks, like the Peak District, the Lake District, it is tolerated. You know, as long as you know, as we'll talk about later, you abide by certain things. You arrive late, set up late, you know, leave early morning, and my theme, which I'll talk about later, through every wild camp that I adopt, is you leave no trace. No one knows you've been there. I'm in Bradgate Park now, which is a small National Trust area in East Midlands. Yes, you could get away with wild camping here, I suppose. Would I come wild camp here though? No, I wouldn't. I won't feel comfortable doing it. So most people have Google Maps on the phone or the computer. Now Google Maps is a fantastic piece of kit to help planning for locations. Again, if you go onto YouTube, I'm not going to explain on this video, you can actually go into depth on Google Maps, and if people have been there before and took photographs, especially wild camping spots, you can actually go into Google Maps and actually see what it looks like in a normal like photograph image. So you can actually plan 90% of your wild camping locations, especially if you watch where people have been on YouTube and then go onto Google Maps. You can actually virtually plan your camp and where you're going to go. And I don't use Google Maps for actually being in the hills, but I always use it for the roads, i.e. leaving my house going from A to B. So Google Maps is a fantastic tool, and it's also a good tool part of your planning process. So you can get a mind's eye of what the area looks like if someone's been there and took photographs. Another part of location, what people forget to think about, unless you get in public transport or dropped off, you need somewhere where you're happy leaving your motor vehicle for the day or for the night as well. So as well as planning where you want to go, you need to plan where you're going to leave your vehicle, and then the route from your vehicle to your wild camping spot. So location is a pretty big part of wild camping, because ultimately you're going somewhere where you want to wake up and go to sleep out in the countryside. So have a think about your location, but if you go onto YouTube, there are some brilliant videos of where people have wild camped, and they're quite happy to tell you where they've been. But then there are some people who like to keep wild camping spots secret for some reason. Let's enjoy the countryside and spread the wealth, people. All right, let's continue. Right then, we've done our research. We've bought our equipment. We know our abilities of both ourselves and our equipment. We've chose our location. But there's just one more final thing that we need to do and adopt through the whole camp, which sadly too many people fail to do. This summer, after the first lockdown, I don't know if you've seen the news, so many people, you know, after having cabin fever of the first lockdown, quite rightly, headed out, boom, let's go. Especially places like Scotland, Loch Lomond way, and also, you know, to the Lake District, people just went out and bought tents, and then this was left behind. People just bought their tents and equipment, had the holiday, had the camp, and then just left the place in a complete mess. So what people need to understand, and more importantly adhere to, so we can all enjoy the countryside. So the last thing we're going to talk about, what I'd hope everyone adopts and adheres to, so guys like this behind me can enjoy their environment safely, and we can also enjoy the environment, and we can keep going, and the environment is still there for our children. It's something as simple as we were taught as children, the countryside code. Firstly, respect other people. Also respect the people who live in the area of where you're going to. So when part of our plan, I talked about Google Maps before, when you're parking your car, don't just dump it at the side of a road. You might be blocking a gate. Just respect other people. Leave any gates that you find the same way you found them. If they're open, the farmer may have left them open. If they're closed, close them. Again, it's all about respect. Follow designated footpaths. If you go into the areas of the Peak District and the Lake District, again, because of footfall and soil erosion, the people up there, mainly a lot of them are volunteers, along with the, you know, with the range wardens. They will, you know, create paths for us to follow. Try not to start deviating, you know, off them paths, because all you're going to do is erode the area because of the footfall. Again, just respect, and also, you know, especially with current regulations, give way to other people. Respect. It's an easy thing to say, but just have respect for where you are, who you come across, and respect for what you do. Second main part of our countryside code is protect the natural environment. Whatever you take in with you, you take out. In the wild camping community, we have a hashtag, a phrase. You'll see it on a lot of people's videos. Leave no trace. There should be no sign of you being there, bar maybe some flat grass or some dry grass if it's been raining, which will soon spring back up. Sadly, even just walking around this park, what I've seen, dog poo bags. People take the dogs while camping. You know, I've seen some great videos with dogs and they love it, but dog poo bags, take them with you. Your own poo, you know, there are a couple of rules I thought of here. I take it out of you or bury it. Don't just poo outside. Just campfires as well. Now, you know, some people say you shouldn't have campfires, some people say it's okay. Again, it all depends on your location, I suppose. But again, look at YouTube, it's quite easy to have a small campfire and build it properly. So again, when you leave, there is no trace of that campfire. Absolutely no trace. Sadly, even on my last wild camp at Three Shires Head, I knew where people are wild camped, bump, because there's dirty big scars where people have had campfires. So protect the environment. Another big part of the countryside code, it's the third big part really, is enjoy it. You know, if you protect and respect, you'll enjoy the outdoors. And if everyone else adopts the protect and respect, you know, everyone's experience will be a lot better, because you're not coming across rubbish that I would pick up, You're not coming across damaged areas. You're not coming across vehicles in countryside lanes blocking access ways or blocking the road. All right, so enjoy it. You know, wild camping is meant to be an enjoyable experience. Getting back with nature. All right, so we've nearly finished. Right, so I've nearly finished my walk now around Bradgate Park. So I think I'll sum up what I tried to talk about as I've been wandering around. Okay then. Do your research. That's one of the starting points, because at the end of the day it's going to be your money you're spending. So do your research, but then don't get too bogged down with it. You know what I mean? Again, everything I've talked about was what encompasses everything is planning. And again, planning to me is a personal thing. Some people, it all depends how your mind works. Some people have to have a precise list of what they're taking with the exact weight of what it has to be. And that's fine. That's how their mind processes things, to make sure they've got everything they need. Some people really are focused on lightweight stuff, but again, it's each to his own. As I said, most of my wild camping will be on a long distance walk, so I'm carrying like it anyway. But I'm just going up for let's say a one night overnight stay to somewhere where I'm just parking my vehicle, walking for an hour or two to get where I want to be, and then have the night and go back to my vehicle. I'll carry quite a bit to make that stay enjoyable. I'll take steak, I'll take fresh food, I'll take a few beers, but remember, whatever you decide to take, you're carrying and you're bringing it back out. Okay, so I hopefully enjoyed the video. Again, it's just my words of wisdom for what they're worth. And we're all individuals, so what works for me might not work for you. Again, but I hope if you haven't been wild camping yet, you're thinking about it as soon as we're allowed to. And if you do go wild camping, it'll be your first time, I hope you have a thoroughly enjoyable experience, because that's what wild camping's all about. Okay then, until my next video everyone, stay safe. If you did like this video, please like and subscribe, because there is plenty more on the channel. Alright then, take care everyone, bye. You old Gill, whatever it's called anyway, that pub I talked about before, there's something to eat in there. You don't carry a meal, because I didn't know what would be open. I treat these little jaunts as like holidays as well, so I like to eat in local places, also throw some money back in the economy and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to have a brew now, just chill out, watch a film or two, then we'll get up handy I think, and we'll get up Stake Pass and on to Keswick. Alright then, all to myself though. Better than a busy campsite. Love it. Alright then, day 2 complete. See you on the morrow.